The wind carried whispers of forgotten promises as she wandered through the quiet streets of her city, her fingers tracing the edges of memories she couldn't quite name. Shadows of lampposts stretched long across the pavement, twisting and bending like the threads of fate weaving around her. Every echo of footsteps behind her made her heart skip, though she knew no one followed. Rain dripped lazily from the rooftops, forming tiny rivers along the gutters, yet she welcomed the wetness, feeling it wash away invisible burdens. Her eyes, bright yet distant, seemed to search for something the world had hidden from her. She paused at a corner, noticing a crumpled note stuck beneath a puddle, its ink blurred and illegible, but somehow it resonated with a strange familiarity. The air smelled of wet earth and distant jasmine, a fragrance that pulled at memories she hadn't known she carried. Somewhere, a door creaked open, the sound punctuating the silence, yet no one appeared. It was as if the universe had conspired to create a private stage for her thoughts. She closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of dripping water sync with the beating of her heart, and felt a strange sense of being alive in a way she had never noticed before. Around her, the city seemed paused, holding its breath, allowing her to exist in a moment detached from time. A faint giggle echoed from somewhere above, playful and delicate, yet it melted into the mist before she could locate it. She lifted her face, feeling raindrops kiss her skin, each one like a tiny secret shared with her alone. Something deep within her stirred, a restless curiosity, a longing for a story she had never heard, but instinctively understood. She stepped forward, unsure where her feet would lead, yet driven by an invisible current she couldn't resist. Every puddle reflected her gaze, fragmented but whole, showing glimpses of the girl she was and the woman she was becoming. She noticed a lone figure in the distance, blurred by the rain, yet somehow his presence felt anchored in her chest before recognition could take hold. The air between them seemed to hum with anticipation as she moved closer, the world around fading into a soft blur of grey and gold. He lifted his gaze, meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch, yet no words were spoken. A strange electricity lingered in the wet air, tangible but silent, as if the city itself acknowledged the moment. Their eyes locked, and suddenly, the rain didn't feel cold. It felt like a warm embrace wrapping around their fleeting connection. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, a rhythm that neither knew how to name, but both understood. She noticed the way his hair clung to his forehead, soaked and messy, yet somehow perfect in the dim light. His smile was small, hesitant, and yet it pulled at a corner of her soul she didn't know existed. The puddles reflected not just their images, but a kind of timeless energy, a story waiting to unfold. She felt an urge to speak, but words seemed inadequate. So she simply stepped closer. The scent of rain mixed with faint cologne, subtle yet lingering, became a memory before it could fully form. Around them, the city moved on. Cars hummed, distant voices called, but none of it touched the bubble of connection they shared. Something inside her whispered that this encounter was no accident, that love often arrives cloaked in mystery and silence. Every movement seemed choreographed, from the way he tilted his head to the hesitant sway of her fingers brushing her hair. She imagined 1,000 what-ifs, each one sharper and more intoxicating than the last. And yet, amidst the uncertainty, a singular clarity emerged. This was the beginning of something she had always yearned for, but never dared to chase. The rain had a language of its own that day, a secret Morse code tapping against the rooftops and cobblestones. She wandered through the streets barefoot, her shoes abandoned like forgotten promises, feeling the wet chill creep along her skin. Each step stirred memories she thought were buried. Small fragments of laughter, whispers of past joys, the ghost of a smile she couldn't place. The wind tangled in her hair like mischievous fingers, carrying scents of wet earth and distant flowers. Streetlights flickered, casting shadows that danced in rhythm with her heartbeat. Strange companions in a city that seemed to sleep. She paused, noticing a small paper boat floating in a puddle, drifting as if guided by invisible hands. The letters scribbled inside were smudged, but the feeling they conveyed reached her, a strange tug at the corners of her heart. Somewhere, a faint melody played, distant yet intimate, echoing through alleys and empty squares. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with an unnameable excitement, a recognition of something waiting. Each raindrop that fell on her skin felt like a soft nudge toward destiny. She moved without intention, letting the city guide her, each street corner a clue to an unfolding story. A faint silhouette appeared ahead, blurred, yet familiar, as if she had always known him in some distant dream. He didn't move, and neither did she. A silent understanding bridging the space between them. She realized then that some encounters were written long before they arrived, preordained like constellations in a hidden sky. The mist wrapped around them, soft and protective, as if the world paused just for this convergence. In that suspended moment, she felt the pulse of life, raw and unfiltered, vibrating through her veins. The man's eyes met hers, deep pools reflecting rain-soaked streets and unspoken emotions. He smiled, subtle but magnetic, a curve that spoke volumes without a single word. She stepped closer, letting the wet cobblestones guide her, feeling as if gravity had shifted to draw them together. Every instinct screamed to run and stay at the same time, a contradiction she welcomed rather than feared. The scent of wet earth mingled with the faint aroma of his presence, grounding her in the fleeting reality of the encounter. Shadows danced across his face, highlighting lines she had not known could be beautiful. Their silence was alive, rich with meaning, each heartbeat a drum marking the rhythm of something ancient and unspoken. She imagined the stories he had carried, layered in laughter and sorrow, and felt a connection stronger than explanation. The city around them became a background of blurred lights and passing strangers, unimportant compared to the intimacy of a single gaze. She realized that love could arrive silently, without warning, changing the perception of every ordinary day. His hand brushed against hers, almost accidental, yet electric, sending shivers through spaces she hadn't known were empty. Memories of forgotten dreams flared, reminding her of the depth of her own longing. Every word she wanted to speak was trapped behind a fragile barrier of anticipation. And yet, no words were needed. Their presence alone sufficed, a language older than sentences or phrases. The rain fell harder, yet they barely noticed, absorbed in the magnetism of a story just beginning. She found herself walking beside him, letting the rhythm of their steps synchronize with the falling drops. Each shared glance carried subtle confessions, tiny fragments of vulnerability offered without fear. The city's heartbeat seemed to slow, yielding to the gentle cadence of a new connection forming. Around them, lights reflected in puddles like scattered stars, illuminating paths neither had anticipated. She wondered if he could sense the swirl of emotions within her, the excitement laced with apprehension. They spoke in half smiles, soft sighs, and the occasional chuckle, a dialogue of unspoken understanding. Every step revealed small quirks, tiny glimpses of character that drew her closer to the idea of knowing him fully. The rain, relentless yet tender, became a companion, a witness to the tentative beginnings of affection. She felt a spark, small and fragile, yet undeniably present, igniting warmth in a previously cold chest. Her mind wandered to what-ifs and possible futures, yet she stayed present, savoring each fleeting moment. He pointed to a distant cafe, a simple gesture that felt profound, a doorway to more shared experiences. She followed without hesitation, curious about where the path might lead. The streets whispered promises, and the night wrapped them in quiet anonymity. Time seemed irrelevant. Seconds stretched into eternity as they navigated the wet, shimmering world together. She realized that sometimes love didn't announce itself loudly. It arrived in small gestures, soft moments, and shared silences. Every conversation revealed layers, each laugh a thread weaving a delicate tapestry of mutual understanding. They shared childhood anecdotes, strange phobias, favorite books, and songs that held secret meanings. She noticed the tilt of his head when he listened, the way his eyes sparkled at mundane observations. The air was thick with warmth despite the rain, a cocoon protecting them from a world that moved too quickly. She felt herself opening in ways she had resisted, letting fragments of her past merge with possibilities of the future. Moments stretched like elastic, expanding and contracting with each shared word. She observed how the little things mattered, the way he adjusted his scarf, the way he hummed softly, the unconscious gestures that revealed his essence. The world outside ceased to exist, or perhaps it existed only in relation to them, each raindrop accentuating the intimacy. She realized that love was not only passion, but the recognition of another soul's rhythm. And as they walked, their hands occasionally brushing, the pulse of something extraordinary became undeniable. The cafe smelled of warm bread and coffee, a stark contrast to the rain-soaked streets outside. They found a small table by the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. Each glance exchanged held the weight of centuries, an understanding that some stories transcend time. She laughed at his jokes, her voice mingling with the soft hum of background chatter, creating a melody all their own. The conversation drifted from dreams to regrets, from fleeting joys to quiet fears. He shared a story of lost love, her eyes softening with empathy, though she never judged. She sensed that the path leading him to her was winding and filled with invisible lessons. Yet here they were, converging unexpectedly. The hands finally met, fingers entwining naturally, a tactile confirmation of the emotional connection forming. The rain outside painted streaks of silver across the window, mirroring the streaks of exhilaration running through her veins. She realized that love was rarely perfect, yet perfectly imperfect in its timing and delivery. The soft clink of coffee cups punctuated their conversation, yet neither noticed the passing time. Her gaze drifted outside the window, where the rain created tiny rivulets that twisted and turned like the intricate paths of life. He spoke of ordinary days that had somehow felt extraordinary when shared with the right person. She laughed, realizing she had forgotten how simple moments could feel so profoundly meaningful. There was a magnetic pull between them, subtle but undeniable, like two tides responding to the moon's command. He leaned back, eyes reflecting curiosity and a quiet admiration that warmed her from the inside out. She noticed the small scars on his hands, each one a story, each one a whisper of resilience. Their words wove an invisible tapestry, connecting past and present, dreams and doubts, hopes and fears. She felt a strange comfort in knowing she didn't have to explain everything. That silence was as meaningful as speech. The barista's soft footsteps across the cafe floor became a background rhythm to their own heartbeat symphony. She realized that attraction was more than physical. It was understanding, empathy, the ability to see without demanding. Rain pattered persistently on the roof, a gentle percussion to their ongoing dialogue. She imagined 1,000 possible tomorrows, each one richer because of this unforeseen encounter. He asked her what she wanted most in life, and she realized she didn't have to fabricate an answer. He already seemed to know. They laughed at absurd, hypothetical scenarios, teasing one another. Yet beneath the humor lay genuine connection. And in that small, warm cafe, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't expected, an invisible anchor pulling her closer to possibility. Outside, the rain had eased into a fine mist, shrouding the city in delicate grey hues. They stepped into the damp evening, the air cooler now, refreshing their senses, invigorating every nerve. The street lamps cast soft pools of light on the glistening pavement, guiding them as if by fate. He offered his jacket, which smelled faintly of cedar and rain, wrapping it around her shoulders with a protective grace. She shivered, partly from cold, partly from the fluttering inside her chest that had nothing to do with temperature. Their conversation continued effortlessly, flowing like a river, unimpeded by obstacles, natural and vital. She noticed the gentle cadence of his voice, each word deliberate yet unforced, comforting in its steadiness. The world seemed to shrink, leaving just the two of them amidst the whispers of mist and streetlights. Each shared glance sparked subtle electricity, tiny shocks that made her pulse quicken without warning. She imagined this moment stretching into eternity, a memory she could revisit whenever life felt ordinary. He pointed toward a small bridge arching over a quiet canal, its reflection rippling in the water below. She followed, captivated, aware that the night held secrets, just waiting to reveal themselves. The gentle sway of their steps matched the rhythm of a song she hadn't heard yet, but already loved. Her thoughts drifted between reality and fantasy, questioning how one meeting could hold so much weight. And in the cool silence between sentences, she felt the profound significance of shared presence. They stopped midway across the bridge, leaning on the railing, watching droplets scatter on the dark water below. Her fingers brushed against his, tentative at first, then more assured, as she recognized the warmth it brought. He spoke softly of dreams deferred, of roads taken and missed, and she listened, heart attuned to every nuance. The city's distant hum faded into irrelevance, leaving only the intimacy of shared vulnerability. She realized that in the presence of true connection, time lost its tyranny. Seconds stretched into something sacred. A sudden gust of wind tangled their hair, and they laughed together, releasing tension that had quietly accumulated. She noticed his eyes reflecting the lights around them, golden and soft, almost like liquid hope. He asked if she had ever felt a moment of absolute certainty in life, and she shook her head, realizing that certainty had finally arrived now. Each story they exchanged built invisible bridges, connecting hearts across past pain and present joy. She felt the fragile thrill of recognition, the awareness that this night would forever exist in the archive of her memory. Their shoulders touched lightly, a casual intimacy, yet it sent warmth spiraling through her entire being. The rain had stopped completely now, leaving behind a world that smelled clean, vibrant, and full of possibilities. She noticed a single leaf floating on the canal, carried gently by the current, fragile yet purposeful, and she felt a reflection of herself in it. They stood in silence for a moment, letting the serenity speak the words neither dared to articulate aloud. She realized that love was not always grand declarations. It was subtle, patient, and profoundly transformative. Walking back toward the streets, they passed a tiny bookstore with lights glowing faintly, inviting them into its warm embrace. He suggested a quick detour inside, and she agreed, curious about the treasures hidden between dusty shelves. The scent of old paper and ink enveloped them, a comforting permanence against the fluidity of their fleeting night. She ran her fingers along spines of forgotten novels, feeling the energy of untold stories seep into her. He watched her with an intensity that made her pulse hitch. Yet she welcomed the gaze, understanding that he saw her entirely. She picked a small volume of poetry, and he suggested they read aloud to each other by the window. The words, though not their own, resonated deeply, mirroring emotions neither had voiced yet. She felt her chest swell with something delicate, something that whispered of beginnings. He smiled at her, the kind of smile that promised patience, understanding, and shared laughter in equal measure. Together, they discovered the strange joy of synchronous hearts, two souls navigating an unknown map without needing instructions. The world outside was a blur, yet inside the bookstore, everything felt clear and purposeful. She realized that love often arrived disguised as ordinary moments, hidden in rain, in quiet streets, in shared silence. He touched her hand again, firmer this time, grounding them both in the here and now. She let herself be anchored, allowing the simple act of presence to become a profound experience. Their laughter merged with a faint rustling of pages, a symphony for no audience but themselves. And in that tiny haven, she felt the unmistakable warmth of something rare and enduring. Stepping back onto the streets, the night felt quieter, almost reverent, as if it recognized the significance of the moments just lived. She adjusted the poetry book in her hands, the weight of words mingling with the weight of feelings she could no longer ignore. He walked beside her, calm yet attentive, the simple rhythm of their steps echoing a harmony she had not known existed. The mist clung lightly to the city, softening edges and blending reality with imagination. She realized how extraordinary ordinary nights could feel when shared with someone who truly understood. A distant bell tolled, reminding her that time moved forward, even when hearts wished otherwise. They reached a small park, its paths glistening from the earlier rain, and she noticed the delicate pattern of droplets on each leaf. He gestured to a bench, and they sat, side by side, the proximity neither forced nor accidental. The night sky peeked through the branches, scattered stars glimmering faintly, as if blessing the quiet intimacy. She felt a sense of peace wash over her, the kind that comes only when one's soul recognizes another. He asked if she had ever felt a connection so sudden, so intense, and she shook her head, knowing words could never capture it. The air held a softness, a gentle vibration that seemed to hum with their shared presence. She let her fingers trail across his hand, comforted by the warmth and the subtle tension of discovery. They spoke of dreams and fears, yet neither felt the need to explain everything, allowing silence to speak in its own eloquence. Every glance, every breath became a quiet affirmation, a pledge not yet spoken aloud. She realized that love was not always dramatic or loud. It was the delicate weaving of two lives into a shared rhythm. The city lights reflected off wet pavements like scattered constellations, guiding them through streets now familiar and intimate. He stopped suddenly, turning toward her, and she felt a gentle weight in her chest as anticipation built. His voice was soft, hesitant, yet certain, each word chosen as if it carried centuries of thought. She listened, heart open, every muscle attuned to the cadence of his speech. They spoke of hope, of possibility, of the strange magic that drew them together on a rainy evening. She laughed softly at a joke, noticing how effortlessly he mirrored her,